We are live after a few weeks.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. It flies by, doesn't it?
It does fly by. It feels like it should be summer, but it's not.
It's really not in Paris, that's for sure. It's like raining and there's condensation inside the windows. I think it was like really wet and cold last night.
And never mind the politics.
Although in France,
Yeah.
I mean, sure. What about? Actually, that is interesting because there's been a lot of coverage in other countries. So I'm quite interested in hearing what you think you know or what you've heard in general.
Very little. Protest in France. That's it. And
That's
then,
as far as you know. Okay.
yeah, and then I look on Twitter and I see Macron had an egg thrown at him. And then there was some pyromania.
That was a while back. The egg. I don't think that was this week.
It might have been this week. And then going and setting fire to stuff in the Paris Stock Exchange or something. I saw some of that.
Setting fire to stuff in general, yes. Police violence and police being put in cause for, I guess you could call it sexual harassment, but certainly harassment, recordings that make them look not particularly good. And then possibly,
no.
Well, there's lots going on.
I'm not sure we really want to talk about that.
We don't usually talk about politics.
No.
So
here's what I would say, and we were talking just before we went live about what we were going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a place to start might be what I want to start with is Sam Harris's app.
Yeah.
Now
it's a good reminder that it did not meditate this morning.
I have to say, yes, there's loads of stuff happening in the world, and it isn't very nice. And I find it really easy to get myself into a massive, like, in the back of my mind, oh my God, what if this? What if that? How am I gonna? What if we don't be able? What if we can't? How am I gonna? All of that goes on in the background of my head a lot.
Yep.
Not so much from my wife. She's like, what's happening now? I need to deal with that.
No, I have to force myself to do that.
I'm always thinking about all of that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's probably why we enjoy talking.
Yeah, it could be. But if I spent too long thinking about it, I wouldn't bother doing anything.
That's kind of what happens to me. I get analysis paralysis, and then I'm like, I don't know where I should.
Well, I just get upset and then I think, well, what's the point? However, Sam Harris's Waking Up app has and does make me feel better.
It's good, right? I really like it.
The thing I really like about it is he's approaching mindfulness and meditation from much more of a practical. He makes the esoteric useful.
Good way to put it.
So other meditation apps, that sounds really cool, isn't it? That sounded really cool. The other apps I've used, Headspace and Calm, they don't do that in the same way. Now, maybe it appeals to me. I'm a guy who's a bit of geeky, nerdy, reads a lot and thinks about stuff, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it taps into that part of me.
I think for me anyway.
His voice is better.
I like his voice, I have to say.
The voice is on Calm and Headspace. And I meditate in the morning. I've started meditating first thing in the morning now.
Yeah, it's generally what I do.
I feel so much better.
It makes a hell of a difference, doesn't it?
The rest of my day is, and there was one, I think it was Friday, I didn't meditate in the morning. I meditated when I came home. And I was a bit edgy all day. I can't believe that I didn't think I would have such a dramatic improvement in my experience, or a dramatic shift in my experience of meditation from changing apps. I didn't. I thought, I know what this is. And of course, and there's little things, I think we mentioned this before, him not putting the streaks there intentionally.
Yeah, they tried it for a while and took it out. Realized that it was just not really.
It becomes more about the streak than being in this magical
the other apps have
moment. The other apps have it, yeah. Or I
never like the streak thing. I don't like it because then I feel bad if I miss it. I don't like
it. Exactly. Calm has it, but I don't know if Headspace has changed. But you're absolutely right. You feel bad when you don't, but it takes away from the experience of
Well, feeling bad is
This
not
moment.
meditation.
Yeah.
It's just not mindfulness to feel bad. That's not the point. And as you said, sorry, I talked over it, but it takes away from the experience of what meditation is. And you're right. And that's what I enjoyed when I had read his Waking Up book, the book that was.
Is the book good? Is it worth reading?
It's good. Yeah, it's worth reading. It's a bit old now and a bit dated, but
Okay.
if you like the app and you like his style, you'll like the book, because the book is at the basis for the app, really. Just got the same name, and it's a guide to spirituality without religion, which is very much what his thing is about. Is like, let's learn from all these traditions, but what if we remove most of the religious aspects, and this is the app. And I really like that he mixes a lot of different meditation traditions, because they have got their own values and their own worth. I'm still mystified by some exercises that I don't know if I'm doing right or not, but I think sometimes I am, but I don't really know.
I think that's part of it. That's part of like I don't have a head.
Yes, that's
I have
the one.
No head.
I kind of get it, but I
like it.
Every time I have to think about an instruction, I'm like, well, now I'm thinking about the instruction, so I'm not meditating, so I don't get it.
It's true.
And the figure snap, that's the figure snap. I'm still like, I think I got it, but I'm not sure. And given he's just talking about experience and describing it as best he can, and I'm like, is this the experience I'm having? Oh, well, now I'm having a thought. So, okay, I'll just let it go. I don't know if I'm having the experience that he's described or not. Maybe.
The thing that freed me up the most is everything is arising in my consciousness. Everything I'm seeing, even like what I see, because I think I related to meditation, you have to do with your eyes closed. Well, okay, but everything that I'm seeing is arising in my consciousness. Was that for me was a huge deal. I was like, oh, okay, it's all happening. There's no watcher. It's just all going on. Cool. I don't have to worry. And that's what I took from it.
I think the main thing I take is the practice allows me to have a centeredness. I mean, this equanimity that he talks about as well, which is really about you have reactions to things that are going on, and to be able to have a time of latency between the moment you react and whether you say anything or being able to observe much quicker that you have a reaction going on, and it's just a reaction.
I don't want to spoil the daily meditation.
Not always possible, but generally speaking, that's the thing that I think it gives me. I hope it makes sense. I don't know. I think it makes sense to you anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me. That gap between, almost like it opens up a little bit of choice.
Yeah, no, but that's the idea. And so you have an immediate automatic reaction, and then a time to go, wait a minute, that's just a reaction. Do I want to react this way or not?
Where I'm getting a bit like interested more is when he talks about free will.
Oh, did you listen to his talks about free will? It's super interesting.
No.
I find it very interesting.
In the app.
In the theory section, he's got a bunch of different. I mean, that's the other part of the wealth of the app. The amount of content that is added all the time from other meditation teachers, from other traditions, both practice and the theory. There's like hours and hours and hours of every single audio recorded from Alan Watts. There's a lot of stuff recorded by Sam Harris, including a big, like it's half an hour or more. There's 2 parts or 3 parts on free will that I recommend listening to. And that boggles the mind. The things about free will from Sam, you're like, whoa, okay. And I think his general stance is there's no such thing as free will.
It is his general stance.
So I think that listening to it is super interesting. I kind of am tempted to agree, or would need to do a lot more research to shape a very much more informed opinion about it. But I also kind of figure that I would have to read a lot of psychology and philosophy to forge an opinion that's like my own. And I haven't really done that yet.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the app. There's the Alan Watts thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. That's very, very good. I've listened to a bunch. Now, when you listen to a bunch, of course, you kind of start getting that he's repeating himself. But yeah, Free Will. Yep.
The Free Will. There's 7 parts, so I'm gonna have to listen to it on the way to work, and then
7 parts. Oh yeah, well, there's probably more than the last time, because the last time I looked was a couple of years ago at least.
Yeah,
there's so much theory that that I haven't listened to. I'm just meditating every day, but I don't. There's a lot of the interviews I have not listened to. There's tons more. I haven't listened to an interview in the app for like 2 years.
It looks cool as well. It looks
very
the
good.
artwork is very nice. It's very
the app is well designed.
done.
They keep adding and changing features. They're extremely responsive. There's a feature that they're just in the middle of changing, which is rather than having Sam say at the end of a session,
I look forward to seeing you next time. Yeah.
Yes, there's a chime sometimes.
Yeah.
And I could not hear it. And I thought that that the app was crashing every time. And there's
you couldn't hear the chime?
No, and they just changed it. They raised the volume. I sent an email. They replied within 10 minutes saying, yeah, we're aware of the problem. We just changed it with a chime. A lot of people can't hear it. It's very faint, so we're working on modifying the volume for it to be clear.
Oh wow, I heard it. No problem.
But there's also the way I usually have my phone out on speaker, and it's not very loud because I don't need it to be very loud, as long as I hear the voice. And yeah, the chime is just extremely faint. And I've been using this for
a long time.
5 years, and for 5 years, every day the end is Sam saying goodbye. So anything else, that's the meditation's not over. You know.
I also like the little 1 minute 30-second thoughts in the day.
What is that?
You can set it. Yeah, you can set it so it sends a notification of a thought.
I didn't even know that. A little. You see, there's tons of features I've not even started using,
and it's really good. It's like a proper. It pops up on. I set the notifications so I can actually. That's one of the ones that pops up, and it'll be like something like, "What are you thinking right now? Where did that come from? Where is it going?" And it's just it's about a minute, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." It's. I set it for 2 p.m. And very it's cool. Just a perfect kind of like little pause before.
Do you tend to be in between classes, or is that the end of school already?
No, in between. 2 o'clock is the end of lunch.
Okay.
Just before the beginning of the next lesson.
Okay.
So it works really. I deliberately picked that time.
Yeah, I thought you might have. That's why I was.
Yeah, because it can just be like, oh my god, otherwise too much. So yeah, it's really good. I'm grateful for the recommendation.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. And yeah, the book is great. The book is just really the history of his learning about meditation, meeting gurus that are all sorts of kind of weird and interesting. He's got fun stories in the book, and just interesting. So it just talks about his journey into meditation retreats and going to Nepal, to India, meeting gurus, talking about the religion, what's the religious aspect, and pulling it out. Sometimes, and yeah, it's the subtitle is The Guide to Spirituality Without Religion, which I've said already. Yeah, it's good. I like it. I quite like him. I mean, I know there's people that really don't, but I quite like him in general. I don't know that I agree with everything he says, but it's always really well said. I think well thought out. And anything I think so. I haven't listened to his other podcast in a long time, to be honest, but. So I don't know how his views have developed in terms of, politics in America lately, but he's generally pretty consistent. I know there's things that I'm really not necessarily on board with him, but it's generally very interesting. Not on board as in, but I think that's just from his perspective as an American.
Hang on, wait a minute. Aren't you an American?
Technically. I didn't grow up there. I'm a lot more European than anything else.
Yeah.
I don't feel at home when I go to the America. I mean, I am because I have the passport, so I can freely be there.
That's what I was
culturally, politically, it's all strange to me. I mean, I'm, not strange, I exaggerate, but you know what I mean? Because not strange because the whole world is familiar with America, or at least a stereotype of it, or many stereotypes. But sorry, I'm culturally not really American now, I don't think.
Yeah, it was. So the reason I was a little bit distracted this morning is because Davina's watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And
I've
she's
never
watching.
actually, I've never actually really watched it. I think I might have seen one scene of it. I've never.
God. Oh my God. It's just inane. And she's watching an episode about two of them who had multiple marriages, and they got married in Italy. It was the guy who's a drummer from Blink 182.
Okay.
Getting married in Italy. And I think I said something ridiculous to Davina. It's like Americans are fascinated because they just don't have any culture when they go to places like Italy. Italy, like, just been around longer than that country. There's buildings that have been around longer than America.
A lot longer, yeah.
So I was like, oh dear. But that's why I was a little bit late. I was like, oh,
it's
I
funny.
can't believe I got sucked
She's
into
watching that early in the morning on Sundays. I don't really tend to watch TV that much on Sunday morning.
Oh, she's not watching on TV. She's watching on her phone.
Oh wow, even better. Okay, I definitely don't do that. I'm old. I mean, yeah, I have old ways in that I don't really watch things on my phone. I mean, I do scroll a bit of Reddit, but that's it. I've slowed down on a lot of things on my phone. I really rarely. I use my laptop.
Mm.
I don't use my phone for watching things like that. I don't, certainly not in bed. I think it's weird. I might check my messages occasionally, but maybe YouTube, a music clip or a trailer. But then I prefer using my laptop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes.
And I know I'm in a minority now in terms of like global statistics.
What?
People using a laptop for almost anything is now a minority of people. Most people use a phone for anything.
And tablet, do you think? Or do you think is it all phone? Really? Like, consuming media on the phone?
Some people use tablets, but it's not at all like, it's still, in the 20%. Laptops is probably 20 to 30%. Depending on the behavior, because I've seen the latest digital stats. I can go and find them, but what device do you primarily use for what activity? Watching videos, phone. So and now the majority of any activity you can imagine that you're doing online is phone. That's the majority the majority device. Tablets have not grown in ages. Yeah. So there's still the behavior of using a tablet is still about the same as it has been. It's plateaued for the past, I don't know how many years. Because the phones have grown bigger, so there's a lot of usage from tablets that have moved over to phone anyway.
Yeah, because phones have got bigger physically.
Yeah, and then there are some people that use a tablet that still use it for the same reason they were always using, whatever it is, to have in the kitchen and have a timer. I don't know, making it up, but I never got into using a tablet. I tried turning on my Android tablet that I had from a few years ago, and it just doesn't work anymore, and I don't even know what to do with it. So I just put it back in a drawer when I was hanging out. the amount of anyway, rare earths pollutants that we all have in a drawer of old phones and stuff. It's silly.
Yeah, it is. I think having a different device for different things. So I won't tend to watch long videos on my phone.
Yeah,
I'll do it on my laptop, but I do intentionally see my laptop or my tablet, and then I like to. This is just the whole me being structured thing. I was
like what you just said. I have a device for every activity, which is both luxury because you have many devices, and superstructure, which is great, like habits, atomic habits, everything else. Like you're really, really, really good at that. Anyhow,
I did. Oh, thank you. I did take my laptop downstairs over the summer and was working on lesson plans and stuff. It's just the biggest mistake ever. Biggest mistake. So my laptop stays on my desk because the table downstairs is for like other stuff. I don't want to. I realized that having to go downstairs, take all my books, whatever, and then sit there is counterproductive. Because
I like to change environments, though. Well, first you have the luxury of you have multiple rooms. Where I'm sitting is my living room and my desk and my office that I have to move all the time.
But you can have one bit. See, what I did was I have my desk, and that's where I do. And I'm going to link and make a segue to writing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I try and write I might get ideas all over the shop, walking around, like sitting, having coffee, whatever. But when I sit at my desk, immediately there's kind of I'm getting ready to do something.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to do a video, talk to a friend on video, do some writing, do some thinking.
Which is just
whatever.
reminding me that I should have a desk space in an office, but
even if the desk space was downstairs and I only did work at that desk, that would be enough.
No, I understand your point.
Yeah. Now, however, I can take my laptop and a book and work in a Starbucks or a coffee shop. That works for me.
Yeah, sure.
That
I
changes.
can do that. I haven't done that in a little while, but I can.
But I can't.
And technically, I have a desk space in my room that I don't use aside from just like piling paper. And the reason, and I knew I was going to do that from the start, and I'm going to have to. It's likely I'm going to have to move it as we're organizing for my partner to move in,
yes.
and I have to reorganize stuff.
But I do like I do notice.
But anyway, my point, sorry to finish. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'm always in the same spot, but this is a foldable table that I have to fold and move things around to be able to turn the projector on, or move my desk stuff when we eat because it's also the dinner table.
Right.
Move it around where there's I turn it around where there's friends, but I all still like working here because I have the window and I have natural light coming in, whereas in my room it's far from the window and I don't like that.
True, I got a window here, and
I like to have a window close by, and it's already considered to be a luxury that I have that in Paris. A window with actual natural light. I can see the sky from where I am, which is not given to a lot of population in Paris.
Oh, wow. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, the urban sprawl.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's very condensed, Paris. It's not necessarily big, but it's very condensed.
It does work, though, having the specific areas for specific things. I didn't think it would. I thought it was just I agree. I'm basically a rat that can be trained. Well, it turns out I am a rat that can be trained.
Yeah, and you train yourself.
Yeah.
You have we've talked about this before, but you have a very set life. You've been living in the same house for a long time. You've been in the same job for a long time. You have like weekly routines with the same people for a long time. I'm happy to be part of one of them. I don't have that much of that. I know, or it's not that I don't. It's that the way I've not sure what the right word is. Built myself up, set myself up, made myself up, whatever, is to shy away from all that.
Everyone does.
It does. I don't know if it comes naturally to you, but it really does not to me at all.
That's a good question. Does it come? I don't think it comes naturally to me.
I don't think it's completely natural for anybody, but I think there are probably some people for whom it's a bit easier than others. I think everybody's capable of it, but
yeah, and I have to say the benefits are massive. So this week I spoke to one of my friends who's moved to Canada, and we have like semi-regular conversations. We schedule them, whatever, and it's so much fun. It's so great talking to him, and we talk about real stuff. We don't just skip over the surface. We get into life, marriage, kids, like the whole thing. And during the conversation, he said to me, I really value these conversations. I don't get to have conversations like this very much. And I'm really glad that we have a regular time for it, because he says, with other friends, we don't have it. I said to him, I totally agree. And I realized two things. The routines really help, but also I realized I've got friends, male friends. And one year I set this as a thing I wanted to achieve. I wanted to have a group of male friends, at least 6, that I could, I made up 6. It was just a number I picked, that I know I could call on anytime for support if I needed it.
Yeah.
And it's taken something, but the regularity of the routines, I've got that. If the proverbial hits the fan, I know there are people I can absolutely call and just go, whatever I need to say. And I'm very grateful to have that, because talking to some people in my life, there are other guys, contemporaries around the same age as me, who don't have that. The only people they really call friends are their partners. They don't really have that. And I think we're
calling back to these articles about the
masculinity
middle-aged
stuff.
men and masculinity, and a lot of middle-aged men being just extremely alone and only have their family and not maintaining friendships or other kinds of activities, or having difficulty doing so.
It's really important, and it's
So,
different. Work colleagues are different. People you might do sports with are different. It's very
funny because
different.
I do have those close friends, like you said. They don't tend to be where I am all that much. Although I've got a couple of new ones here that are maybe growing into that, maybe. But I also do have other groups of activities. So my Dungeons and Dragons group is a group of guys, and I don't have that level of intimacy with them, but we do play a game amongst guys and it's fun. So that actually, I wouldn't call them for something really dire, although maybe, who knows, maybe that might grow into that for some of them. But it does fulfill on having an activity in a group and just having a few beers and exchanging and playing a game, which is like some other people's poker night in the States, I guess. But yeah, it's cool. I like it.
It definitely takes investment, and the structures help with that. And it's only
that's actually
another
really regular structure I've had since last year. The Dungeons and Dragons game.
Yeah, it works. It works. It takes something though, but it's only looking back over the past 4 or 5 years when all the nonsense happened, certainly in my life, that I realized, that's why I invest in it, because it's nasty stuff. Well, not nasty, but circumstances are going to happen, and I don't think there's anything that I wouldn't be able to handle.
That's cool.
Except, I don't know, the sun exploding and we're all going to die. Nuclear holocaust. I just reread Watchmen. So, Russia and China and America launching nukes, mutually assured destruction. Oh, well.
Yeah. Going there, I don't think it's going to happen that way, but there's a lot to be concerned about and a lot to be afraid about.
There is.
Water,
and Watchmen,
drought, big time in the south of France.
Oh, yeah.
There's villages right next to where my sister lives that they cut the water. No more water.
Because there isn't any.
There isn't any. No more water in the tap. Now these villages, like the town hall has decided on a ration, and they distribute water bottles to the inhabitants.
Oh my gosh.
And it's April, and since the beginning of April, the whole multiple areas in the south of France have already got the height of summer restrictions, which is no watering your plants, no washing your car, no filling your swimming pool, no excessive water usage whatsoever, like in California. But I mean, it's possible that there's just strange weather condition, that there was a winter drought, but the general trend is the desertification of the south of France and Spain.
Wow, it's
and my sister as a winemaker / agriculture is getting all the government warnings, and she's in the front lines of being concerned about it. I can't remember if I told you, she was talking to her neighbor who's a blacksmith about the drought and the lack of water and her concerns. She's worried. The dude replies, "Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, I'd be really upset if I couldn't take a shower at the end of my work." And she didn't say anything, but she told me, she was like, "What are you talking about? I'm talking about water to live, water to water the plants and actually grow things to eat. And if you don't drink water, you're dead." So I'm not even talking about the shower. I mean, it's cool, but I'm talking about actually being able to drink. And we are in it's going to be in
I had no idea.
Emergency mode in France and all of most of Europe already in April, and we haven't started summer. Now it's raining in Paris. It's fine, but some areas in the south of France are going to be already under drought conditions because they didn't have any snow or rain during the winter at all.
Wow,
that's why the skiing season was really bad throughout Europe. There's no snow.
We're in such a fine balance with our environment, aren't we?
Well, we find balance because we've been destroying it joyfully some people joyfully for the past, since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, probably.
Yeah.
I just got something. We went to the library yesterday. It was cool actually to go to the library. I hadn't been to the library in ages. I renewed my card. I'm like, yeah, I'll renew my card. They said, "Oh, but you're not in the system. When's the last time you renewed it?" And I was like, I think it was 3 years ago. They're like, oh yeah, then we delete you after a while. You have to refill the form.
3 years. That's not even that long.
Yeah, but I think if you don't renew it within a year and a half or 2 years, they do. I think I can't
enough.
remember.
So you had to go
I'm
through.
pretty sure it was. I renewed it after the first lockdowns in 2020, but I'm not certain.
So you had to fill out the whole form, and you got a library.
Yeah, it didn't
card.
take very long. I just had to fill
Yeah.
out a form again. But it was funny. I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't. But there's also true. I talked to another friend after. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, I don't really go to the library anymore because I just buy books.
It's true.
I was like, that's true. That's kind of what I do. I just buy
That's
the books
kind of what I
online.
do. But Davina's actually reading a physical book, and she's really, really enjoying it. And I reread Watchmen. I'm finally getting to read the graphic novel of Dune that I had for Christmas. Oh my god, it's so good. And
Nice.
Watchmen's amazing.
Yeah, I should read it again. I've not been reading.
so
I've not been reading at all. Well, no, the thing that I did read yesterday is my short story. I got back into writing.
Well, this is
writing.
yes,
I was
good.
really reading, and I wrote one sentence. And I realized that the last time I had just about touched the short story, which is the one that I started writing a year ago, and I last touched it in November, but really,
I didn't realize it'd been a year.
I started writing it, and I had promised that I did my first draft for end of March last year. And then I just about touched it a tiny bit in June and July, and then I reread it a bit in November, and that's it. So my writing habits are not good.
Well, let's just add something here.
Yeah,
so
sure.
You wrote the story, and you've been through a draft. I said I would write the story. I had the idea, and I did nothing. So you mean it's been a year?
Yeah, over a year. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I've got the idea and the concept for the whole story.
Yes, you told me that several times.
I know.
That's what I don't have. I was rereading my draft and thinking how bad it was. In a lot of places where I was like, I need to rephrase this. And I almost started editing, and then I thought, no, wait a minute, let me read the whole thing and get properly back into it, because I know what's missing is I have a structural issue. Yeah, the end for sure, but then it's a general structure issue on what's the whole story, what's the beginning, middle, and end of this thing, and certainly the end. So I thought, okay, I need to reread it entirely, get the sense of the flow, and I need to figure out properly what the end is before I start editing bits in the middle, because if I don't know where I'm going, it's not worth really, and that's difficult. That's where I also feel there's a similarity in the struggle when I was talking about analysis paralysis. I think about too many things, and then I don't have the answer. Or I don't think any of the things that come up are interesting or good enough, and then I end up saying nothing. So I end up writing nothing, I end up posting nothing, I end up questioning what am I up to in the, like, everything from what am I up to in the world and what am I up to with my life to all the way to, wait, what should I have for lunch? I don't know. There's so many options. What could I have for lunch?
Part of the reason I'm laughing is from the way you say it, but I'm also laughing because I've been reading bit by bit, bird by bird, and she talks about this exact thing.
I need to maybe, well, I could read it again. And yesterday in the middle of writing, I thought, okay, maybe joining a writing group, having some structure would be good. So I opened a couple of websites, looked up workshops and stuff in Paris. And then I thought, actually, what would help is just writing. So let's go back to my writing thing.
Okay, so
I'm glad it makes you laugh, but I mean, it makes me laugh a bit. Yes. What did you say?
Bird, I'm laughing at myself too. Bird by Bird is amazing.
Yeah.
And I've just read the bit about which speaks to almost what you're saying. She calls it a radio station, like, just write, and the radio station is going to tell you it's terrible, but write. And she talks about the first draft thing. The first draft's always going to be terrible, but just write. Yeah, and it's the way she expresses it. It's so authentic. It's so exactly what happens when I sit down and go, right, I'm going to write this. All the other stuff comes up to not do it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
True.
Okay. So it's the 23rd of April today.
Mm-hmm.
I have school break at the end of May. I'm promising that I will have my story, Dark Splendor on the Green, complete by whenever our call is at the end of May. That's what I'm promising.
There's a holiday on the 28th of May, and I'm not sure I'll be available. I might be, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So it's 28th or 4th.
But I can write down that you're going to have your short story written.
Yeah, I'll have it done by the 28th of May. If that's half term, actually, no, I don't think that's the half term week. I think half term week is after that.
Okay, so when the first
So
week
I'm
of
saying-
June, or
I thought you said the first week of June. Then you didn't. You said the first week of June.
June, yes, first week of June.
Arrakis. I don't know how you say it. How do you say it?
I don't know. Arrakis, maybe.
The desert planet where there's no water. Oh. Okay, so it's going to be by the 4th of June. I'm promising to have Dark Splendor on the Green complete by the 4th of June.
First draft?
And that was your made-up title that you gave me.
First
wasn't
draft?
it? No, done.
Done. Oh, okay.
Done. Just done. Like when I say done, I mean I'd put it on a website for people to read.
Okay, good.
On my blog to read. That's how done it is. So you heard it here first. The hordes of fans we have watching.
Yes, exactly.
Tune in on June the 4th to find out. No, tune in on June the 4th to get the link to read my short story, Dark Splendor on the Green.
Yes. 4th of June. Good.
And the thing is, I've got the concept fully formed in my head.
Yep. You do.
So what I don't know is how I'm going to get there. And that's what
it's quite the journey to write it out.
Well, that's what I like about what she says in Bird by Bird is like, let your character speak. One of them might want to wear dresses in a purple Batman suit and someone will say it's a terrible idea, but no, you need to explain why they want to dress as a purple Batman suit. It might suit them. Let the characters and it's so, that book is so good. It's so good.
I agree with it. It's very good. Yes.
And I think I'm about 60% through, but I'm really reading. Usually I read a chapter in a sitting with that book. And that's what I'm aiming to do, to get through a chapter each sitting, because there's so much in there that's useful for writing. But it's very much, it's not like writing. I think it's like writing a blog or writing a book or writing a piece for an article. It's not like writing an exam answer, which is what I spend so much of my time doing, or writing a lesson plan. They're different.
I've been thinking, and I talked about with my partner yesterday about, getting back into publishing regularly, looking at what I'm doing online, and even this week was on Thursday. I started writing a to-do list, and I realized, I kind of knew, but that it felt like I was coming out of a stretch of tunnel since I left on holidays for skiing. Because since I've been back, I've just been back to back busy on stuff, work and entertainment. And my mom was here. And so anyway, it felt like that was the first time. And I think it was the first time that I was really properly updating, like what's outstanding, what are all the things I need to do.
Right.
And particularly what do I need to do and what can I do from a expressing myself / new business, and thinking a little bit about both like immediately writing articles, but also, and there's also this week I was managing a podcast workshop with the school, and I talked with a lot of really great people, professionals. I got a really great guest speaker to get involved, and it got me back inspired also in thinking about sharing and publishing. And now it's also in the context that I was doing a course last weekend, so that's also plays into it, of course.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, because you're thinking a lot about your future and all of that big
yes.
stuff.
So the big thing I got out of the course is I thought I would get some insight or about a vision for my future, but then I just realized I just have to create it. Nobody's going to give it to me. So I have like I'm back to ground zero. I was trying
Did
to
you
talk
have you
with my
have you
brother.
created anything, or are you still
No, but I also realized, you know
exploring?
what, just like we were saying earlier, that I get lost into too many thoughts.
Mm.
And what works is just to slow down, to reduce it down to like, okay, what do I need to do right now?
It's nice.
And maybe what do I need to do for the next bit? But I get too lost in the analysis paralysis. I like, am I doing the right thing? Where's my life going? What's happening? It's like, no, actually, what I need to do right now is I should write an article. I should make a plan for my new business.
Mm. Mm.
I need
Mm.
income for the end of April, and I got 10 days. I got a week left to generate contracts for May, and there's a lot of holidays. So I'm like, okay, I need to do this right now.
And
And
you're
that actually, yes, I could think about, you know, a bigger vision, but I don't know. I keep wondering. Actually it's funny. Oh, there's a lot of funny things that have been going on, and a lot of conversations I've had over the last week or so. Um, a good friend of mine called me yesterday with the same kind of questions I have around work, and he's thinking of
okay.
opening a rum bar, which is quite. I'm like, well, wow, okay, cool. And similar to me, but similar to me insofar as he's a freelancer, teaches, but different because he also has been consistently in the same spot with the same clients, growing his business for the past 15 years.
Mm.
So while he is freelancing, he's got a consistency that's closer to yours, as in he's in the
Mm-hmm.
same town, and not
Mm-hmm.
Paris,
Mm-hmm.
not far off. But whereas I'm still, I guess, settling in and getting back up after the pandemic as well.
Would you like to be in his position where he's got that kind of consistency of clients?
Well,
Or
no, because not really. Well, yes and no. Yes, I need to do that right now because that's what there is to be done to just generate income.
yep.
But also, he has the same concerns and questions that are like, how long is this sustainable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I see myself doing this for another 20 years? And for him, and I think for me,
Mm.
the answer is pretty much
Mm.
no.
Mm. Mm.
Or I just keep building it and accept that this is the way things are and just do it this way. But I'm not sure that this can work for like, do I want to do this for the rest of my life?
It's a
And
very
then,
big
do I want to
question.
do this? It is. There's
But
my
it
immediate
also,
answer. Well, do you see yourself being a teacher for the rest of your life?
I think so, involved in teaching in some way, shape, or form. Maybe
Okay.
not being in the classroom as much, but yeah, I do. But
So you
what
see,
I want,
I have a lot of these kinds of questions. It's good that
but
you
what
do.
I think is so great about what you're saying
Mhm.
is that you're willing to look. I think a lot of people are too frightened to look. See, I was out with one of our mutual friends and we went to the Science Museum with his
Yeah,
kids and
I
we were
talked to
running
him yesterday,
around.
by the way. Friday,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. So we were talking and I was like, well, there's a few things that came up for me. One was being present takes something. And because it was holidays, there were a lot of parents with a lot of kids around.
Mm.
And I just felt like a lot of parents are not present with their children. I was like, yeah,
No,
their
but the
kids are,
general human condition is to not be present.
I know, I know,
That's why
I
we have
know,
meditation apps and practices,
I
because we're
know.
not present.
I know, I know, I know, and
Sorry,
that's
I
kind of,
cut you off, but
and that's what I was noticing. I was like, gosh, wow, and so that was one thing, and the other
Mhm.
thing was noticing how differently I experience the world, or I experience people treating me because I'm in a museum where there's lots of parents and lots of people with kids,
Mm.
and there was one moment, I don't think I shared this with our friend, but there's one moment where his child was like crawling along and it was right next to this guy, and I'm standing right as if in a straight line from his child next to this guy. The guy looks
Mhm.
at the child and then just naturally looks up and sees me looking at the child, and the child's looking at me, and there was this flicker on the guy's face of like the mismatch of, and then our friend, he was right next to me, and then it was like, okay, fine. But it was interesting for me to notice how differently I experienced myself in that environment, because so much of the time when I'm walking out and about, I'm by myself, and or with Davina, and it's really different when there's kids around. It's really, really different when you're with a lot of kids. I've had that kind of experience a little bit when I'm with my nephews, and people assume that Davina and I are the parents. It's a natural assumption to make, totally natural. But I was really struck by that. Wow. Oh, and linked to this whole thing, the ridiculousness of someone following me on Twitter and then contacting you to get hold of me to be on a public radio show. So funny.
That's true. How did that go?
It got postponed. It's got postponed to May because the host is sick.
Okay.
But I'm really looking forward to it. I had the sound check, had a whole discussion about it. And
was it recording or was it live?
It's going to be recorded live.
What does that mean?
I think it means they're
not editing the conversation.
Yeah. I think that's what that means.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit like recorded in front of a studio audience, that kind of thing. Like, I've been told I can't swear. Like, okay. But it's going to be a bit like this, I guess. So that's how I'm relating to it. I'm just going to talk.
Okay. Have you listened to any of the podcast episodes?
It's not a. I don't think it's like live. It's like, it's not a podcast. I don't think it's a podcast. It's like radio.
No, but I
don't know how it works.
Well, it is.
Is
radio,
it a podcast?
But it is also a podcast.
Okay.
I sent you the link.
I will listen to it. I haven't
done so myself, but yeah.
I know that the host talks a lot about intimacy, sexual stuff, a whole range of issues all about it, and that's the theme of it. But there's the way it goes is in 3 segments. The first segment is someone else's experience of male fertility, and then it's someone medical, and then it's me talking about, I guess, the future. I don't know, but this is in 3 bits, and I'm going to be listening from the beginning, so we'll have a chance to respond to the whole thing.
Very cool. It sounds cool.
It does, and I'm very excited about doing it, actually.
And yes, it is funny that somebody contacted me to get to you. So it means that or at least it was useful for us to have the conversations and have links, URLs.
And well, this journalist found me because I'm in the film all about male fertility. But then I was like, like you said, why didn't you just Google me? Unless there's loads and loads of James D'Souza's, I don't know. But she'd read some.
Tried to reach out to you and sent a message and an email, and you didn't reply. So I don't know. Maybe worth checking if there's a problem with your email.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to.
Or if it's in your spam, perhaps.
Oh, possibly.
You didn't check that at all?
I checked spam, but there was nothing there.
No, but since I messaged you, because I also did say she tried to email you anyway.
I don't know. But the Twitter was. I've had requests before where people have messaged me directly on Twitter. I thought that would have been the easiest way, but obviously not.
If you use Twitter, I don't use it anymore.
I do, but
I use it to just check what's going on with protests live. That's what I use it for these days. In
my structured life, Twitter is purely about teaching.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you have
all teacher stuff.
My Twitter's all over the place. At some point, I thought I would clean it up. It was too much effort. I haven't done that yet. I don't know. I'm thinking about changing my website still, and I don't know if it's useful or not. Starting a newsletter again, or restarting my newsletter, moving it to Substack or something like that. Anyway, I don't know.
But the thing I think that's made a difference for me is, again, this whole thing. I sit at my desk, I write. When I open Twitter, I tend to read or write something about teaching.
Yeah.
When I open Instagram, it's tending to be stuff about masculinity and fertility and stuff like that. When it's my laptop, it's something else. But I found it's like I have a separate bucket for different things. It seems to work for me. LinkedIn is I'm intentionally making about teaching.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I should do more LinkedIn, but anyway, I don't know. I should spend time reviewing my profile, how I introduce myself, what it is that I talk about. Yeah.
Are you working on anything article wise or writing wise at the moment? Or you
Well,
got any
aside from the short
ideas?
story I mentioned, that's it.
Okay, I thought
No,
you
no,
might have had something in
I
the
haven't done
pipeline
anything in
for
weeks. In well, 2 months or more.
LinkedIn.
No, and I don't post consistently. I don't. It just bores me to read the posts and the updates. I don't. And I need to do. I need to get back into it and do more. No, the thing otherwise I was doing lately was organizing this podcast week, which was I got in touch on LinkedIn with a bunch of people that are professionals in marketing and sustainability, CSR, diversity, to find and line up interesting guests for the students to interview,
And this is how you found out
which
about
was fun.
Riverside FM, right?
What's Riverside FM again?
Is it Riverside FM? It's that app that streams and
Oh
podcasts
yes,
and
that is how I
records.
find out about Riverside. So, yes, that's right. That's how I
One
found
of
out.
my
I also found out about the new Adobe AI audio fixing tool that is in beta, that apparently just fixes the audio of everything just kind of by magic, borderline by magic. Just give it an audio
wow,
file and just fixes everything. But yeah,
wow.
it's been interesting and fun this week of podcasting. Quite challenging. Learned a lot, could have done a lot more in preparation. Anyway, but it
Have
was
you
good.
have you been playing? Have you been playing with AI?
Not
You've been
really,
using
no.
it,
I mean, so not since Christmas, so it's been already 4 months. I haven't touched it.
which is
What is the
like
status of ChatGPT? Can you still play with it,
a
or you have
lifetime.
to pay for it?
E, no, I'm still using it. Did I tell you I was using it to write lessons?
Yes, I think you did.
Yeah. And so you can, I've started to play with the prompts. I've also started playing with Bard as well, the Google version.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what I'll do is I actually compare what ChatGPT produces on the same prompt to Bard. And there's some overlap, but they're not the same. And it's actually quite useful for me when it saved me so much time
I hadn't
creating
opened it since
stuff.
well, and then there were like in January, February, a few times I tried to open it, but it said well it was over capacity, and then I gave up.
Yeah.
And then I read the news that there was a paid version, and oh yeah, no, I'm connected, and then I just
Yeah.
didn't. I've been gone on holidays, and I've just been busy on other projects that had nothing to do with it. That maybe I could have helped. I go figure. I don't know,
I think it could help.
but
It's all about asking great questions.
no, that much I do understand, but
And it has saved me so much time. It still needs to, the material it produces still needs to go through my expertise to make it useful for students. But it honestly, it has saved me so much time. And I'm going to continue using it because it's an amazing starting point. You could probably put in there like write a blog post about the current state of planning, strategic planning or something.
I could, but then it's not me writing it.
Well, it would give you a starting point to be able to refine or take. It might give you a direction.
Sure.
Because I find with writing, getting started is the hardest bit. Today, I've got to write loads of reports.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can't. Oh, maybe I could. Maybe I could use. Maybe I could. Maybe I could use ChatGPT or Bard to generate some reports. Don't know. But what I have are banks of statements that I use, and they're filtered. So I have good, bad, good, medium, bad, depending on what I want to say about the pupil.
And you
And
have what,
then,
just banks like they're in Excel spreadsheets, and you copy and
yeah,
paste stuff and change it?
yeah,
Wow, that's super well organized.
yeah, I do. And it customizes itself and it changes over the years. I've refined it, and depending on what I'm doing. So if it's an end of year report for someone who's partway through a course, it's different from somebody who's right at the end of their time at school and whatever. And I've got enough to be able to call on, but I don't think it ever. And honestly, I think all of these things have really helped my writing skills. I think they have.
Amazing.
I don't know, but yeah, I've got a bunch of reports to do and then a bunch of marking to do.
Well, I need to finish listening to these podcast episodes and give them feedback. But I have started. I just need to do a bit more.
So you've got, like, for you creatively, you've got possible newsletter, possible podcast, restructure of website.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do everything.
Posting
I
on
need to
LinkedIn.
focus on something.
No, I know.
So I think I'm going to focus on
What
the
are you going to do?
newsletter, to be honest.
The newsletter. Okay. All right.
And possibly, I don't know. There's a lot that says it's not really worth working on my website, but having a nice website helps, I think. But now there's a lot of people that don't look at it. I could just post on, Substack and LinkedIn and not worry about updating my website. But I don't know. I'm in two minds about it. So I'm wondering, okay, is it worth? And I've been talking about possibly changing my website for 2 years at least now. And every time I start looking at it, I get stuck, and I'm like, it's going to take me ages to do anything, and I just put it to the side again. And I don't even know what I want to do. Possibly split things out so that I have a personal website and then my professional website, and split out my blog posts. Keep the ones that are worth highlighting and make sure they're easy to find. Or just change my whole website, leave it as a blog, so it's just like writing first. Put the podcast to the side because I've not been publishing it.
That is kind of.
I don't know. I'm not sure what I want to do, to be honest. I'm not sure.
That is kind of what I've done with my blog. I've put headings across the top for groups of posts and used the tag. You can scrunch it by a tag, so you click the thing and it shows all the ones by tag.
Interesting, because I was looking for tags or a way to find your blog post, because when I was replying to this radio producer, I was looking for your 4-part series about fertility treatment. I think it was, and I could not find it, and I was like, I don't know I can't find it. I don't know where I can find it. It didn't have one of the headers, and then the next thing along the sidebar was dates, and I'm like, I have no idea when this was published. So it's going to take me ages. I'm not going to do that right
so
now.
I have actually since then put that series of posts at the top as a heading on my blog,
because I knew those were popular and good, but they are good, I think, anyway.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's the see, you type it and it just stops.
And I do a
computer can't handle.
Admire. Is that the right word? But yes, I do appreciate and admire that you're very clear on what it is that you talk about. You talk about teaching, you talk about male infertility, and men's health in general. And I'm scattered in what I'm talking about, but I tend to be quite scattered.
Well,
actually, I've not been talking about anything for so long. There's not even any topic. For years, people have always told me, like, choose a trending topic and just focus on that. And that
annoys me too.
But I don't like it.
Annoys the hell out of me when people say that, because I acknowledge what you said and thank you. And I feel like I just talk about random stuff. But it's what's happened is, for me, the intentional use of a platform for one thing has made a huge difference for me. And then I've gradually found that there are things that I do talk about, like we end up talking about. We talk about writing, we talk about like self-development. I will talk about masculinity. You might talk about planning and communication and media, but there are things that we inevitably end up always talking about that we get associated with us. And I think that's the way to do it. I do have that now link at the top of my blog about the dealing with male fertility as a series of posts. And I think that it's because there's too much other fun stuff to write about and talk about. I don't want to feel limited. I just want to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Like our conversations.
And I've not been talking about much. And I've been also thinking and having a few conversations with people around hearing myself say, like, since the pandemic, I was talking with my partner. We had a cool conversation yesterday.
You mean that phrase?
That phrase, as in, there's a massive impact that we as humanity, individually and as a society, are dealing with that it's just had it has had, and I think there's many ways in which we don't realize what impact it's had or it's having, and we'll still be working it out for a while.
Yeah.
You know, listening to somebody that say that their social life has completely changed since then. My mom was telling me about that. My work life has completely changed, but it's also changed because I moved to Paris, but Paris and everything else has changed. Now, I don't mean bad, but I mean, it's just, there's like a lot of impacts, a lot of changes.
Yeah.
That we don't, and I don't have any answer to that. It's just like, I was just noticing that there's something interesting that almost everybody has an impression, has that saying, like, since then. And there is sort of a beginning and after, or before and after. But there's also, like, everything on the surface is back to more or less business as usual, with a bit more remote working for a lot of office workers. Questions like, you know, how many days of remote work are you allowed to do? But that there's a lot of other things that are very real, on inflation and supply chain issues. And anyway, I'm going further outfield, but my point was that it's just interesting to notice that there's an impact. And one of them for me, this is where we circle back to our topic. I was like, where was I going with this? Was that I withdrew from a lot of social media. And I also withdrew from a lot of writing and a lot of sharing what I was doing. So sharing what I'm doing, because a lot of social media is posting and sharing what you're doing. So I'm not participating in that, or very little. But I'm also not really promoting and writing about work. I have written a few articles and forced myself a couple of times, but it really felt very forced. Whereas beforehand, it was very natural for me to post and share photos, share blog posts, write, and now it's become a struggle. And I also just feel like that my life is kind of better off for not really being on social media all that much. But I don't know about better. It's different. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think that, so what's the block with writing? Like, you say how you used to share stuff, ideas, writing, whatever, and now you don't. Is that post pandemic, or is it something else?
I'm not sure about that.
I keep telling you
the writing is, there's a bit of pre and post, but not really.
I keep saying this to you. I think you've got so much to say. I think you should.
Yeah, I know, and I appreciate you telling me that. And I do, but I think where I get lost is where I just start wondering, okay, what is it that I want to say?
I can't be the only one who says this to you.
No, you're not. You're not. And I do want to, but I honestly, genuinely get lost in what is it I want to say. Surely what I have to say is not all that interesting. It's been said before, and I read it a bunch of times anyway. and even then, even if I don't have that, I'm also literally just like I was talking earlier on, I get lost in my own thoughts of like, wait a minute, what is it that I want to say? I
know. I do laugh because it's very, very similar to what she talks about in Bird by Bird. It's so
now there's a lot of that just needs to go back to just, okay, what are the things that I do write about, in what language, because doing both is also intense, but yeah. It is. It's very time consuming. I mean, intense as in time consuming, and it takes brain power to think in two languages, write in two languages. But really, there is just actually, you know what? Just bringing it back down to something simple. It's just putting back in the time to write. And I am wondering, and I've been putting some thoughts into. I think my schoolwork is a crutch and a distraction in that sense.
Really?
Yeah. A crutch insofar as I say yes to schoolwork because I don't have work lined up, but then I end up spending a lot of time on it and not enough on, for example, writing articles that are going to be useful for my profile and finding clients in media and planning communications.
Yes, I do get that world, because teaching.
But you have a full-time job, so that's, you know.
But the teaching thing,
it's very time-consuming, and I like it, but it's not helping me. Yes, not helping me get new clients, not helping me canvas LinkedIn, not doing that.
It's not just that. What people, I think, don't always appreciate about teaching is that the time consuming, yes, but it is intellectually demanding.
Yes,
It is.
it is. So there's one thing, for example, a practical example. There's another thing that happened this week that I'm not going to talk about now, even though nobody's watching, but I'll tell you later. But there's one thing I'll talk about now, assuming almost nobody is watching, and it doesn't matter. As I was asked by the school this week by somebody that I was chatting to in person, who needs to find people to go grade fifth year exams for this summer. And I have done some of that last year. And I enjoyed it to a certain degree, but also thought I should not do this again if I can help it. And then I was asked again this week. And I looked on Thursday, as I said, I looked for the first time in a while, started looking at my plans. I was looking at like where am I at with my revenue objectives? What is there to do? What's the big to-do list on everything from, I haven't taken care of the dentist and I should have gone like 2 months ago, or all the work stuff going on. And I looked and I was like, well, I don't have work going on for July. My pipeline is pretty empty. I need to fill in my pipeline for work, client-wise. So because I don't know what's coming, and there's part of me that's nice because, well, they need to fill in their exam times and they need to find people, and I need to know that I've got work coming up, but it's the work that's not as well paid as client work and doing my main job. And I had said this year that I wanted to reduce the time with the school, which I have so far. Anyhow, I said yes to something, to a few things, to a number of exams, but then on Thursday or Friday morning. And then after that, since Friday night and yesterday, thinking, wait a minute, I remembered that I thought last summer I didn't want to do that again. And that actually, I think I said yes to be nice, but also yes, because I'm worried about making enough money. And just as we were saying, I thought, actually, this is going to take me a lot of time. And this is all time when I'm not doing client work stuff, writing, other things. And I know also, I'm now extrapolating a little bit further, that if I put myself into a bit of emergency mode, as in like I really need to produce results and fill the pipeline with client work, without having the safety net of the school work, I usually produce better results. Now, I don't know if that's exactly true, but
I know what you mean. Or as one of my colleagues says, with enough pressure, you can create a diamond.
Yes, exactly. That one. Yeah. So I'm now thinking, and I slept on it yesterday night. I'm probably going to sleep on it again tonight, on saying like, listen, I'm really, really sorry. I said yes on Friday, but actually I don't think I'm going to take this on. But I'm hesitating a bit. And the hesitation is that's where the school is a bit of a crutch. I say yes to things to both be nice because they really need somebody, but it also is easier for me, but it's not as good as developing my client and my profile, which is what I said I wanted to do this year, which I am so far good. By the way, on my objectives for the year, I'm a bit off, but I was worried that I was really off, and I'm not off by much. Actually, I can pick up and I can get back on track with my original objectives next month. But so far I have nothing to do that. I need to get
it really does
together.
Sound like the classic thing of, when you read the only stories you ever hear about cool entrepreneurs or in some extreme situation, and that's when they invented the blah blah blah. It's that it is that thing of, but again, you're willing to look, and most people aren't willing to look, to actually say that you think the school is a crutch, and it does sound.
And I enjoy teaching. It's not. I don't mean anything bad by it.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because there's a whole balance to be struck with it. It's almost like you want your main time to be communications planning. That's where you want your energy to be, and then a little bit of teaching.
Yes.
Extra, not the other way around.
And it's been the case last year. And one thing that works is, for example, the class I'm finishing with the first year students, because I have that class, it's there. I've practiced it before. I tweaked a few things, but it doesn't take me long.
Yes.
And the fifth year class that I've been doing for 3 years in a row, that again, I changed a few things, but it's there, it's ready.
Done.
Whereas reading papers and spending an hour doing oral exams with the students is interesting, but it takes 2 hours for like nearly 2 hours, but like 1 hour, 45 minutes oral verbal exam and 45 minutes to read it beforehand to grade it. And It's going to take 2 hours altogether. And I honestly didn't like them that much when I did it last year. I really thought this is kind of vaguely interesting, but I don't think it's very. I didn't like the papers. I thought they were generally bad. I thought it would be interesting. It wasn't. So
no, it's I get it. I really do get it.
But it's
that
what I
what
took on is
like.
enough to pay my rent and fixed income, fixed expenses for the month of July. And right now I have nothing else for July. And I know that often I don't get a lot of things in August because France is dead in August. But that's all from last year. And there's a lot of things that have been picking up since the pandemic. So I know that last year was a lot better than the year before. And this year's so far turning revenue and work-wise a lot better than last year. So it's all going in the right direction.
And also, you don't know the effect of when you put your attention to writing, when you have the bandwidth to do that, what the knock-on effect of that would be if you're writing genuinely interesting, engaging articles, which you can and you know how to do. It would have that kind of effect.
Agree. Yeah. Now then, and yes, absolutely, I agree. And then there's I'm going to go there. It doesn't matter. Then just to make a stop, because it's not necessarily the same topic, but circling back to what is it I want to do? There's the wider conversation, which is, do I want to keep working in this industry? Which is not so much about, do I want to keep looking for clients? Some of it is that, but some of it is also like, I'm less and less interested in to write about this industry. And more into, what we read in Bullshit Jobs and some of the reports about advertising being like one of the bodies of industry that literally destroys value. And I'm like, well, maybe I've been doing this for long enough. No, but at the same time, it was interesting to get back in tune with some of that because of this podcast week was around sustainability and communication and people who work around both things. Talking about the idea that actually marketing and communication and people who are trained in it do have value, and there's value in there, and not everybody does realize. Yeah, it's how you apply it, and this is stuff but that also gets me back to the conversation I have with you that you just told me, that I don't realize what it is that I bring. I don't realize the value that I do have when I open my mouth and say things, and I just get a little bit lost in what is it I want to focus on. So that said, I think communication in general is something that I'm still interested in, and it would be a shame, and I don't want to throw it away. I still want to talk. I still, even if I were to change industries, or if I was to build a company, I would have to, or I would want to use and leverage all the stuff that I do know about communication. And I don't know if communication is the main moniker, strategy, communication, not sure. Where I do feel a bit of an imposter syndrome is talking about play stuff. I still want to talk about that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, sort of. I feel like, I'm not playing as much. I talk about it. I talk about being that person, but I actually have not done all that much formalized writing and studying around it. I don't play that many games these days. I do have my regular Dungeons and Dragons game, but that's it. I don't read a lot of rules. I don't talk about it as much because I used to be part of this podcast to talk about theory, and I was behind. There's so many things in terms of workshop exercises and stuff that I should formalize, write down, and I haven't done that. So that said, this is all stuff to write about, to formalize. By formalize, I mean, for example, have my own way of doing brand positioning, and have a sheet that says this is how I do it, that's not the same as others.
The Van der Horst play model.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems learn, adapt,
but it's very much the same level of things that I do. And I appreciate you saying I'm willing to look, which is, as long as I don't do it, it can't be knocked down. So it keeps it as, as long as it's kind of this dreamy state, you can't really evaluate it. You can't criticize it. You can't.
Yeah. You're not. Yeah. The moment you say you're going to do it or whatever. And that's why I deliberately made that promise, because it puts a hard edge on it.
So I can promise, say, when I'm done with my short story, But what's for sure is I agree. I do need to get back to writing, and I need to promote my business. Right now, that's what there is to be done. Now, how I do it on my website, and it's, I don't know, do my best to not get lost too much and make a few promises that are a little bit more pointed to, okay, I'm going to do this week. For example, I will write an article and publish it on LinkedIn this week. There you go. That's, or at least one, perhaps two.
Cool. Well, and if I have something to say about it, I'll comment usefully on it.
Cool.
I don't like it when people just like stuff. I'd much rather post an interesting question or a point or something.
True, but I do a lot of liking because it takes time to comment. I posted a comment on one thing that I saw on LinkedIn that I was actually thoughtful because I appreciated what was said in the post, which is good. I should be doing more of that, but it takes a while, right?
Yeah, it does.
Sorry.
That's the game to play.
Sure. Actually, I just looked at the time. Should we?
I did too. We will round off, and fingers crossed.
Sorry, this got way serious very fast. I don't know if anybody's going to follow, but I appreciate you listening.
Yeah, but fingers crossed. I would have watched Dungeons and Dragons by the next time we speak.
Oh yes, you should totally go see it. It's super fun. It's really good. It's a good
movie. Because we took my nephews to see the Super Mario film.
How did you like it? It's cool, right? I really loved it.
Maybe my expectations were low, but I was like, this is really good fun.
Yeah.
It was a great watch.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will stay with me. I don't think it'll be a film I rewatch.
It was just a lot of fun.
But it was a lot of fun. It was, and all the references were there.
Dungeons and Dragons is a little bit like that. Tons of different Easter eggs for people. Maybe a tiny bit formulaic in the way that it's done, but it's also a role-playing game, and a Dungeons and Dragons game is a little bit formulaic, so it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it's great characters, great dialogue. There's fun. There's a lot of action. It's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a great popcorn movie. You'll enjoy it. It's very cool.
That's what I needed to know. That makes me happy.
It was funny. I went to see it, and I walked out, called my brother. He was like, I'm walking in. I was like, oh my God, you're going to have so much fun. And then we called one another again later. And he really
like
enjoyed it too.
He
loved it. Same as me.
Yeah.
It's like, I just had a great time. It was fun, laughed, great dialogues, good characters, things that were very Dungeons and Dragons and very role play game. There's a bunch of Easter eggs and little bits and pieces if you pay attention. Some for people who play regularly, but also if you've never played, you don't know what it is, you will enjoy it because it's just an adventure movie.
Yeah. A band of brigands thrown together to find the MacGuffin and return it to wherever.
Yeah, a bit like that. But they do one better because there's a bunch of different things going on. There's some. And also I enjoy because they're thieves. It's a bit of a heist movie, so there's a bunch of different heisty stuff, which is cool. I quite like that. Oh, and I watched Operation Fortune on Prime, the new Guy Ritchie movie. It was fun. I recommend it.
We went to a preview of that
at the cinema.
Yeah, and then we had.
I didn't even know it came out of the cinema because it was straight on Amazon here.
It was one of those, not preview. It's one of those things where you watch it before it's fully made and you get to comment on it.
Oh, how'd you get invited to that?
Because there's random people standing outside and they say, do you want to see a film for free? And then you have to sign an NDA and give feedback and stuff. I've done that. We've done it a few times. We did it with that film, actually. And I rewatched it. So I rewatched it. And the cut that we saw was not as good as the final cut. And Davina hasn't rewatched it. She wasn't impressed with it. I thought it was.
I liked it. I thought it was very good. Watched it with Katie on Friday night, and it's exactly what we wanted. Like, had a long week and just wanted something fun, and I was like, "This is perfect."
Yeah, there's a couple of bits in that film that I thought were great. You don't put cooking oil in a Ferrari. And his reaction to the wine.
Yes, and then I was like, "Wait a minute, he's the Ferrari? Oh yeah, he is the Ferrari.
The kid's the Ferrari."
No, the kid, yes, but him and them. He's like, we're both really high class, the best of the best, so we have good wine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different level of kind of gun for hire kind of film that was really well done. And Aubrey Plaza, oh my God, she's so good.
She's great. She's great.
So good.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
I haven't seen her in much else. I know she was in Parks and Rec, and I think she plays that style of character. She's very deadpan, isn't she? She's that kind of person.
Yes, there's a lot less expression even in Parks and Rec in her character.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the game comes from Chris Pratt, who's like over the top and super enthusiastic and not very smart, and she is super deadpan, and they're together.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I think I'd like that a lot. I haven't watched any of it, which is
Parks and Rec
criminal.
is great. It's very
I know,
good.
I know it's criminal that I haven't watched it. And
Yeah,
it
it's
it
good.
seemed to be a jumping ground, a starting ground for a lot of people who've gone on to do big things, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Chris Pratt wasn't Aziz Ansari in it as well,
Yeah.
and who do you know who wrote it?
Parks and Rec. I think it's the same person who wrote The Good Place, but I'm not certain.
Okay.
To be checked.
It has that kind of funny, officey kind of commentary thing, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, totally. It's the same kind of era, same kind of thing.
I think I'd like it a lot.
Yeah.
So next time we speak, Dungeons and Dragons. Let's just make it Dungeons and Dragons. We'll talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and
you've got a new book.
Start working on character.
Yeah, we'll do it. Great.
Thank you.
We've got our pointed promises that are set. So tune in next time to find out progress.
Yeah, I need to put a date for my short story. I'll tell you just after we log off.
All right.